Hello, everybody. This is Nemo from Middle East Still Single. If you like the content, please like and subscribe. Peace.
All right, here we are. Middle Age, Still Single, the podcast. Nas, Nemo, Mitchell, and myself here
All
to
right.
discuss some current events today. Over the past week to 10 days, there was another mass shooting tragedy in Buffalo, New York. The gentleman filled with hate, or the young man filled with hate, decided he wanted to open fire in a grocery store and killed 10 people and left 3 wounded. Doing some research on this topic here, come to find out that he had not only been back the day before to case and do some surveillance on this particular supermarket, but he had been there a month before to do initial surveillance and reconnaissance. This is a truly disturbed young man. Today we want to talk about why this kind of thing tends to keep happening here. Like, what is going on in our country, in our society, especially in our country, where we keep having these mass shootings? You know, there are a lot of different sides to this. Some people will say it's gun control. Some people will say it's, the rampant violence that the kids and people are exposed to on a daily basis. Some people will say it's pharmaceutical. Everybody is addicted or under the influence of prescription drugs, antidepressants, antipsychotics, drugs for ADHD, even pain relievers, even pain meds. So we want to talk about why we think this is happening here. So, Nas, let's go to you, man. Like, what's your opinion? Why does this keep happening in our country?
Man, I think the causes are multifaceted because, as you say, like this one guy, his reason was hate. The guy that shot up the club was gang violence in Chicago. Before that, we had one where the guy went into a club and just shot up the club, right? So there's not one cause for the different types of mass shootings, but the one thing that is in common is high-powered weapons, military-style weapons that are making it easy for these types of things to happen. That's one way we can look at it. We can look at it another way, too. We can say, what is up with the culture in America where, this is an American phenomenon? Yeah, we had the shooting in New Zealand or whatever, but there hasn't been one since in New Zealand, right? That was, 2 years ago? In 2021, there were, I think, 600 mass shootings. Not all of them were advertised on TV. This is just in America, not 600 mass shootings around the world. We're already at 200 to close to 300 mass shootings. Yeah, this already. And we're not even at the halfway point of the year. So there's something going on in American culture. And to the gun owners, I'll say this, to the responsible gun owners, I believe that guns have a part in it, but I also don't 100% blame just the fact that these guys have guns. I think that there's, like I said, the causes of it are multifaceted, and I am, just like a lot of people, at a loss for what does a country do? What do normal people feel like you are? This is a national form of PTSD that we're causing, because now people in that community are going to have a hard time going to that one grocery store in their neighborhood just to buy groceries, just to buy food for their families. they're going to have to drive somewhere else, but they're going to take that with them when they go. So I don't know what the cause of it is, but I do know that this is a national tragedy and an international embarrassment for what people like to say is the greatest country on earth. And I just think that we have to do better. We have to find a way to, if not completely remedy this, lessen it. And that's pretty much what I have to say on that.
Mitch, what you got, brother? Where do you fall? Where do you fall on this question, man?
It's a phenomenon that doesn't have just one answer. As Nas was saying, there's many facets of what's going on. There's different motives for all the mass shootings. Some of it is depression and anger out towards family. Other is just flat out hate and racism. I don't know what the percentage is from one to the other. There's flat out just too damn many. I think in some cases you can blame the guns. I don't think the public has to have automatic weapons. I understand that there's an amendment that says the right to bear arms, but at the same time, weapons for war, I don't think you need to hunt. I don't think you need to own unless it's just a power thing. At the same time, I think anyone can get guns illegally. I think it's just that easy in this country. So it's bigger than a gun issue. I think you touched upon something about how medicated we are as a society. There is a drug for everything. And seeing that we only understand about 20% of the brain, as I've seen written, that the medical community, as advanced as we are, and the things they can do, we really only understand about 20% of our brain. And so when you start introducing all these medicines for all these maladies that, by the way, are pushed upon us, restless leg syndrome, man, that's a brand. They're just branding to sell their next medicine. That's just, call it circulation, call it what it is, or maybe it's muscle. Or my point is, there's a lot of medicines out there, and we don't know how they're affecting your brain, my brain, individuals' brains. I mean, we all might be part of the human race, but our brains work differently, and our chemical makeup is different. And I think that has a lot to do with it. I think also that our culture, and why you see more here than anywhere else, I don't think it's gun control. I think it's our use of violence every day in our face through television and movies, through games. They're all violent. All the best-selling video games or arcade games are violent in some manner, whether it be guns or a starship just shooting up things and explosions. Violence is part of this culture, and it's growing. And so I think kids are, well, not just kids, middle-aged people who were kids, grew up with all this violence. Instead of riding bikes, I rode bikes. I was never a game player. When computers came out in the 80s, I didn't sit down and go, this is the future, which probably would have, done me a great financial service, but I was still outside, running around, doing outside stuff. I wasn't inside the house playing games, learning how to blow things up. With that being said, that's not the answer to all of it. I think we still have a big hate problem in this country. I think as we move forward, and the divisiveness of our media, whose business it is to pit each other against each other, is part of the problem as well. Instead of finding solutions, we blame. We don't find solutions in this country anymore. We place blame. We finger point. It's like, it's that person's fault. No, it's that person's fault. Instead of, hey, here's a solution. Let's work towards this. And I think that's a really big issue when it comes to this. It's it's really beyond my comprehension. But I think social media is a big part of that. I think the truly depressed, sick individuals who could premeditate something like this, or even the ones who act on a flash, want their 15 minutes of fame. 15 minutes of fame in the 80s and 90s didn't exist. I mean, it existed, but it not like this. Now your 15 minutes of fame isn't waiting on a lifetime to get yourself on the news and be interviewed or something like that. Now your 15 minutes of fame is from the next crazy video you post. Anyone can have their 15 minutes of fame nowadays. This, for a lot of people, and not all of them, the murderers, I believe, is an attention. Like, I'm going to go out. I'm worthless in life. I'm going to go out and I'm going to make my name heard. And it doesn't help that it's, this is a tough one. So the media has to cover it, and they have to cover it well enough so everyone knows. But the more you cover it, the more you're inciting other people who are under the radar. So I understand pulling back and not giving that guy his 15 minutes of fame. I get that, because that's going to incite others. It's a very slippery slope. I think between the pharmaceuticals, I think the social media, which allows you to get your name out there if you're in need of mental health, or if you're just full of hate. I think there's too many facets to really quell this. But I'll tell you what I do know is that we need to stop blaming each other, or blaming guns, or blaming pharmaceuticals, and we need to come up with serious solutions. And if that means profits have to go down somewhere within the U.S., then profits need to go down. Human lives are far more important than profits of corporations.
Let me. I'll just pick up on that. I think Mitch spoke
Please.
about the pharmaceutical part of the situation, but also America represents 6% of the world population, but yet over 70% of illegal drugs is done in the United States. That is crazy. So this could be, like you guys said, it could be hate, racism, and to me, honestly, I just think it's just trying to just get the easy way out. Like, if this was in Africa, there's no such thing. If you have a problem with somebody, you're gonna fight, fist, and the person is gonna leave the city next day. So in America, gun is just so easy, just the easy way out. You're just gonna pull a trigger, and somebody's gonna be gone forever. And you don't think about the consequences. If the dad, the mom, the sisters, how it affects everybody else, you know. And to me, that's just the sad part of it. Just like Nas and Miss said, there's really not a good way to solve the problem, because it could be there's just so many variants on it. You just don't know where it's coming from. But as far as to solve it, I don't know. I don't have that answer. I just think gun has to do with it, but I'm a foreigner, so I really don't. I know there's somebody just said, in America you have the freedom to bear arms. Is that correct? Right?
Mm-hmm.
So do you need to have the kind of guns that you need in Iraq? See, I don't understand certain part of that. If you're gonna get a gun, get a gun. If you need a gun for hunting, that's fine. But do you need a military? You're not in the military. Why do you need such gun? That's just my opinion. Like I said, I probably need more knowledge on it, but I just don't understand the whole concept of that. It's hard to solve this. It's a good topic. It's good for us to discuss it, but as for us to solve it, that is just a tough. There's just so many different things. Like you guys said, hate, racism, loneliness, depression. There's just so many things. And how do you put a hand on one certain thing to resolve it? I just think it's tough. Back to you, Rob.
I I blame this on our capitalistic culture. We know for a fact, right, that the guns that we sell, that the gun corporations sell, wind up in hands that they don't belong. All right. We know that our country is largely addicted to legal medication. All right. Like legal prescription meds have taken over for a lot of the street drugs, where, the housewives and the teenagers, the kids with money, the businessmen, they're all taking a lot of these prescription drugs. And we know for a fact that we are overproducing and we are overprescribing all of these drugs. Now, when we start doing this and not paying attention to who we're prescribing the medications to, and one of the things when I was doing my research here was I found out that like more than 60% of the attention deficit drugs, the antidepressive drugs, the anti-anxieties, the antipsychotics are being prescribed by doctors that are not psychiatrists. All right. So what's happening is people are just prescribing drugs to make money for the pharmaceutical companies because there's some type of kickback, right? And not really paying attention to who's getting these drugs and the effects of them. All right. So all of these kids, all of these people who are dying in these mass shootings are really just collateral damage to the whole, our whole capitalistic structure. Right now, now listen to the perfect storm here. So we take, and not only are psychiatrists not mainly the ones who are prescribing these psychiatric drugs, but the time in between follow-ups is over a year, on average, more than a year. So after a psychiatrist or a physician prescribes these drugs, a lot of them are going a year or more before they follow up with that patient again. Right? Lots of things can change in a year. Right? So now check out the total here. So we have more drugs out on the street, legal drugs, psychiatric drugs on the street. We have more guns on the street. We have more violence, on TV and video games. All right. And then we have a very divisive country right now. Like all of this put together, it is creating a situation, and we should be able to see this coming. We should know that we start adding these ingredients to this mix, we're going to have trouble. But still, everybody wants to blame somebody else. Big pharma wants to blame it on guns, and gun people want to blame it on violent video games, and and families who they want to blame. I heard, matter of fact, today I heard that the kid from Buffalo, his aunt blamed it on COVID. Said, he was normal until COVID happened, and ever since COVID, he became paranoid and different, and now, they want to blame that on COVID. We've done this to ourselves in our country. We really have. We have allowed these big corporations, these big systems, to just do whatever they want to make money, to keep business going, to keep profits high, and we're starting to see the end results of us allowing this kind of stuff to happen.
I look at you and Mitch talking about the divisiveness that's in the country, right? And I remember a time under Reagan where the Democrats and the Republicans would genuinely agree on things that they both thought were best for the country. Even if it was, you would get a Republican that would vote with the Democrats, or a Democrat that would vote with the Republicans, right? If they thought that bill was good for the country, they would vote for it. But now, if you're blue or you're red, then nobody's going to support anything the other one does. We've had several Supreme Court justices, the highest court in the land. We've had three to four. I think four out of the last Supreme Court justices that were nominated Not one of them was unanimously nominated. But under Reagan, under Carter, when these justices were nominated, they were almost unanimously nominated because the people could honestly say that's a good Supreme Court justice. I don't care if that person is a Democrat or a Republican. And now you have these people that call themselves congressmen and senators that won't even agree when they see in front of, they can say, this is how bad it is. They can say, this person is a great judge, but I can't vote for them. And then they make up a lie. Right in our faces, man. So it's no wonder that we can't get to the bottom of why we are the only first world country that has this problem. They don't have it in Japan. They don't have it in Canada. They don't have it in the UK. Not like this. They have it, but it's usually somebody trying to make a bigger, like a terrorist or something, right? But the reason why, man, is we haven't had real leadership in this country in 25, 30 years, man. They're not coming together to solve the problems of this nation, man. If you have somebody like Marjorie Taylor Greene, this woman is a congresswoman and she's an idiot. And we think that the people that got her elected think it's great that she's an idiot and that she's up there making decisions for them. The people who were supposed to lead us were supposed to be smarter than us. And they're not, man. It's no wonder this country has, everybody's got goddamn me PTSD. You can't drive down the street without thinking about somebody pulling next to you and blowing your brains out. Going to the grocery store to buy a loaf of bread or get your girlfriend a happy birthday card or something. You know, it's just ridiculous. So we can blame it. We can point out all of the things that are symptoms of what's causing the ultimate problem, which is the mass murder of innocent Americans. But we also have to always go back to leadership, because leaders are what? Problem solvers. And these fuckers are not that. The only thing they do is look at who's winning and who's losing.
It's a private club now.
That's all it is. And guess who's winning and losing? Guess who's losing?
We are.
The public. Yep. The public. You know, it's not easy. It's not supposed to be. You're running a nation. It's not supposed to be easy. But you have to have people who are willing to come to the table and be honest and stop trying to be too far to the left and too far to the right. And a businessman will tell you this. A good deal is when everybody is okay with it.
A win-win.
And what I mean is, I don't feel like I got everything I wanted, but I don't feel like I got raped either. Right? That means that you had to give a little bit to the other side so that this deal can get done. But eventually, those deals work out. In America, our leaders, the people at the top, are failing miserably at their jobs, man. They are. And we are all suffering. They are not. You had a congressman who was shot by a man, and he still didn't change his view on what? Help me out, Rob. When you Mitch, you know, you're a gun owner. When you have to get the gun, the sign up for it,
registration.
Right? Yeah, he didn't even want stricter controls over that. Right? Like, just just make him wait 30 days, right? He didn't even want to do that.
Yeah.
And he almost died.
Yep.
And the reason why he didn't, you know why? He's a Republican. I agree with Republicans on a lot of their fiscal policies, right? But they are getting an F minus when it comes to things dealing with social policy, man. And I'm not a social policy like I'm not one of those guys that's like, oh yeah, it's all about this. No, I'm not really. I'm not like that. I'm kind of in the middle on everything.
Well, there's got to be compromise. That's what Congress was about. Work it out. Let them argue, speaking for the people, right? And like you say, we're not going to get everything we want as a businessman, but we're going to get something that enough that we don't feel like we got screwed. And the left should feel the same, right? They should be compromising for the good of the nation. I have literally felt that I am not being represented at all, and that I don't even call myself a citizen of the United States anymore. I honestly call myself a subject.
Mitch, you know what? I got a call from somebody with the Democratic National Committee, right? And she said, we want to talk to you about, the Republicans are doing this year. Are you going to vote this year? I said, no, I'm not. She didn't even know what to say. She didn't know what to say. The script, that was off script for her.
Yeah.
Right. And then I said, because you guys didn't do what you said you were going to do before you got elected.
God, people don't remember. That's the part. And as an adult, we're supposed to, our homework as adults, our civic duty is to follow the politics and follow who's running and follow the promises, and no one does it. So to say that to a politician or to someone calling to say, well, you promised this and you didn't lead to it, they're not used to that because they don't expect people to follow suit.
Right. Oh, that was the past. No, I remember.
No, I write that stuff down. I don't typically remember, so I write it down to find out how it goes through.
There were really solid things that could have helped if they would have done it, and they didn't do it.
Yeah.
And those things are still affecting me and a lot of other people like me, right?
Yeah.
How can I forget it?
I agree.
I think it's time to do away with the party system, man. Why can't we just get back to an American party where we don't feel like we have to choose one side or the other? Why we can't get together and just figure out what the best thing for our country is? Because I don't understand how people can literally defend this kid's right to own a gun and to have high what's the word I'm looking for? The ability to shoot like high amounts of rounds at a time. I forget the word here, but like, how could you defend that? And how could you defend this kid's right to go buy a gun when he's had mental problems and he's threatened to, in his I want to say his final term paper at school, he actually wrote saying that he was going to commit homicide and suicide. All right. And they sent him for a mental health check, and they let him go. And then he proceeded to buy the weapon after that. I don't understand how you can be a proponent of that kid being allowed to buy a gun.
Absolutely
legally.
not. How he slipped through the system, I don't know. That's ridiculous. I didn't know about that part, by the way.
Because they didn't notate in his record that he had that type of problem. So when he went down to the store, the gun store didn't have a record. When they looked him up, he was clean. And so they
only look at criminal records, not psychiatric records, because that's patient therapist privilege.
And that's why you have to create a system where you can do that and still not be in violation of HIPAA laws, right? You can release information about a person that is detrimental to the public.
Yep.
Like for a lawyers can write this up for a specific purpose. If a gun store owner has this person in his store, he's about to buy 100 rounds. That gun store owner should get some type of notice. It doesn't even have to be in detail.
Nope.
Don't sell this weapon.
Right.
That's all it has to do,
Anything
right?
of a mental
Without
problem.
revealing any information. And because buying a weapon should not be an emergency. You know what I'm saying? Like, you should not, I need this tonight. No, you don't, because what are you going to do? It's going to be a lot of deers out there if that's what you're buying it for, right? If you're buying it because Mikey is in the neighborhood, he going to be in the neighborhood for another 2 days, and you know that, and you got to get this gun so you can handle that, you don't need that gun, right?
Right.
But we don't know that,
Right.
right? So we have to be able to find ways to work around all of these things, man. But we can't do it if we're lying to ourselves.
Hey, I have
Right.
a question for you guys. So what would prevent me from getting a gun in this country? Is it a felony? What would stop
Nothing.
me from getting a gun?
Well, a felony
Nothing.
should.
Well, it's supposed to be a felony.
Yeah.
So if even a felony
But
can still get a
there's
gun?
a lot of it depends on the state you're in. It's not federal. This is gun laws are not under federal law. They're under each individual state decides what their requirements are for the person getting a gun. Am I right, Mitch?
Yes, you are. As a matter of fact,
So
yeah, like the waiting period. Well, California and New York have the or I think it's
The
I'm sorry,
longest.
Illinois, probably Illinois has the strictest gun laws. Those top three. I know California's got the strictest gun laws, but it used to be I can go to a gun show and I could buy a handgun at the gun show and have it in my hand 7 days later, right? I think California is 21 days or 20 days now. So what I can do is I can now drive to Oklahoma, go to a gun show, and walk out of that gun show with that handgun. So it does
Texas.
need to be federally overseen, and there needs to be more laws that are in line, right, with all these safeguards that we're talking about. And Nemo's got to be on the top of that list. No, Nemo, you could go in. I'm not sure what Missouri's like, but you could probably go get a gun. And if you don't have a record, speeding tickets don't count. If you don't have a felony, you could have a gun in 7 to 20 days, depending on your state.
Wow.
You can have a weapon of war. You'd be amazed at the stuff that
In
you
some
see
of the
at
states,
gun shows.
yes, like Montana, Nebraska, North and South Dakota, absolutely.
So even if I don't know how to
weapons all
use
day
it,
long.
Yeah.
Oh,
Even
I
if you
can
don't
still
know how to use
possess it.
Yeah. And then you
Nope.
can go online to YouTube and figure out how to turn that 9mm that's that's supposed to be semi-automatic and then turn it into
Semi-automatic,
an
you can make it automatic.
right? By simple, you
Right.
can buy those kits. So it's really easy to, if you want to kill, it's really unfortunate.
and there's no training required for me to be able to buy a gun and
Zero.
shoot somebody.
You have to pass a test, a written test,
Okay.
before you purchase the gun, and you have to get a certain percentage. And in my experience and some friends of mine, if you miss one or two more than you're allowed to miss, they'll go over the test with you, the whole thing, not just the two that you missed that push you over the edge. They'll go over the whole thing, explain it to you, pass you right then and there. In the toughest gun state in America, California,
Oh wow.
so that you can now buy that gun. Now, that's training, but that's all the training you need to own that gun. If you want to apply for what's called a CCW, which is a concealed carry, which means you can carry it on your person under your clothes in California, you have to go through a long vetting process. That's when you have to have some training. You'll be required to go through a handling course, a shooting course, and another written test. But really, to tell you the truth, all that takes less than a week to do. So if you want to tell me that I've had a week's worth of training, that's all I need to own a gun in California.
It's harder to get a driver's license.
Yeah.
Not in Texas, baby.
Yep.
All you got to do is go down there and say, I want a gun.
You can
baby.
open carry in
I
Texas.
want to go quail hunting.
All right.
Ain't no quail in Dallas.
All right, gentlemen.
Yeah,
listen.
I'm gonna shoot quail with a 9mm. Yeah, you better be a good damn shot.
All right, gentlemen. We could probably talk about this for another 40 minutes, 50 minutes.
Absolutely.
But, listen, maybe we'll come back around to this, man. But the last thing here, Nas, what year was the Constitution? What year was the Constitution written, man?
1776?
That was the Second Amendment?
Oh, 1787. Oh, well, it was signed 1787.
Okay. And the Second Amendment was one of the originals, right? It's time for us to look at that. You know, that was written a long time ago. The world was very different. The country was very different back then.
Bro, and what it was talking about is nothing like how people are. Is a well-armed militia is different than what we have right now today. And it was supposed to be to stop a government, to defend against a government that might try to take you over, right? How in the fuck can we defeat missiles with guns?
Well, they would never put
Obama killing dudes from 10 miles up.
But
tell me how you going to defend against that. It makes no sense today.
Then they would never use missiles on their own land if the government was going to take us over. I'll tell you what's happening. The government is taking us over through laws, through ratification of some of these laws. That's why I said I'm a subject. I'm not a citizen. They're slowly chipping away and have been for 40 years, chipping away at our freedoms.
Mitch, in Chicago in the 60s, they dropped bombs in a black neighborhood over black citizens. They will do it. They will do it.
Listen,
send me that article. I'd like to read that.
Let's cut that off
seriously,
here.
send me a link. Or I could probably look it up. But
all right, bro.
Yeah, I've never even heard that. It wasn't in my history books.
Yeah, of course not.
There you go, Nemo.
All right, gentlemen, listen, another good discussion, another good set of shows here. As always, it's good to see you guys. And we'll talk to you guys next week.
Yes,
My
sir.
brothers.
Gentlemen, thanks.
Peace.
Thanks for teaching me something. Every time I spend time with you, I learn something.
Special